Hi, I'm Pattu from freefincal. Today let's ask, is it worth buying small cap mutual funds, whether they are active funds or passive funds for that matter? So what we're going to do is to compare the performance of active small cap funds to the Nifty small cap in 250 index first, and then we will move on to the Nifty mid cap 150 and the Nifty next 50. So we had recently discussed that it's really a myth that active mid cap fund managers can easily find opportunities to beat the mid cap index. Now let's consider the case for the small cap index. So to do this, what we shall do is first we shall consider every possible 3, 4, and 5 year rolling returns. That means I look at the dates between the 1st January 2013, since direct plans began, and the 12th October 2021, and I look for every possible 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 year returns. That's the logic I use in my monthly mutual fund screeners. So we shall now define a rolling return performance consistency as the number of durations a fund has bet the index divided by the total number of return durations. So if you consider SBI small cap, there are a total of 1695 1 year periods in the time window considered, and out of these 1695 periods, the fund has bet the Nifty small cap 250 index 1396 times. Out of those 1695 periods, 1396 periods, the small cap SBI small cap fund did better than the small cap index. So the rolling return performance consistency is basically the ratio of the two, which is 82%. 1396 divided by 1695. So we shall look for this rolling return consistency over every possible 3, 4, and 5 years, and it should be reasonable considering the high fee that we pay, and we pay that fees whether the fund performs or not. We want 70% rolling return consistency, rolling returns outperformance consistency. See, 50% consistency means it's a coin toss. It can be underperformance or outperformance because it's the same probability approximately. It's not, you can't equate it to a probability, but it's more or less similar to a coin toss. Now, it has to be much better than 50% to justify the fee that we are paying. So we'll set above 70% as a benchmark of good performance. Now, if you look at small cap funds versus the small cap 250 index, over 5 years, 11 out of 14 funds had a outperformance consistency greater than 70%. Over 4 years, 11 out of 15 funds qualified. Over 3 years, 11 out of 15 funds qualified. So this is a much better situation compared to the mid-cap space. The mid-cap space, the active mid-cap funds are struggling to beat the mid-cap index, whereas in this active small-cap space, active small-cap funds have comfortably bet the small-cap index. However, you should not jump with joy, because why are you investing in a small-cap fund? If you want to invest in a small cap fund, you are taking on more risk than a mid cap. That means you expect more reward than a mid cap. That means your reward is justified only if the actively managed small cap fund has better mid cap index. And I also wanted to mention that we have removed funds like quant small cap. Young people may be very upset with me, but many of these youngsters don't understand that before the SEBI regulations, that is about 3 years ago, that's quant small cap was actually an income fund. It was a bond fund. So if you look at the returns today, if you look at 7-year, 8-year returns of that small cap fund, you are basically adding a debt fund with an equity fund. Most people don't look at all that. They just look at 1-year returns and invest. So you have to be careful about what funds you use to analyze. Now, if you compare with respect to the Nifty mid cap 150, only 4 out of 14 small cap funds have consistently bet the mid cap 150. Again, the same 70% criterion we will use. 4 out of 15 over 4 years, 4 out of 15 over 3 years, 2 out of 15 over 3 years. So it's a dramatic difference. So the point is that okay, it may be good news that an actively managed small cap fund is beating the small cap index, but the point is it is very easy to beat a small cap index. So, and if you expect more return than a mid cap index, because that's why you are investing in small caps, then the situation becomes very different. So But then again, mid cap indices have got these tracking error problems, and so why would I even look at a mid cap index? I can just compare it with respect to Nifty Next 50. Again, the situation is very similar compared to Nifty Next 50. Only 6 out of 14 funds qualify over 5 years, 6 out of 15 qualify over 4 years, 3 out of 15 qualify over 3 years. So why on earth would I buy an active small cap fund or a passive small cap fund? I can just use Nifty Next 50. Someone today told me over email, you just keep talking about Nifty Next 50 in all your articles, but that's how the mutual fund space is. In the mid cap space, you don't need active mid caps because you have Nifty Next 50. In the small cap space, you don't need active small caps. You have Nifty Next 50. This is the ground reality of the data as on date. That's what I'm looking at. I still believe that you don't really need a mid cap fund. You don't really need a small cap fund because all you need is if you want to take more risk than the Nifty, stick to Nifty Next 50. That is for passive investors. If you say I am an active investor, just buy an aggressive hybrid fund that will get the job done, or buy a multi asset fund that will get the job done, or buy yourself a flexi cap fund that will get the job done. That's all. If you say I want 25% this, 25% that, and so on, then buy all these new multi-cap funds. They will get that done. I don't see why you need to complicate it with separately buy one fund that will get your job done. That will, especially particularly young investors who don't have to invest too much money. Older investors will a lot of disposable income to invest. They may need to diversify among 2-3 funds. That's a different matter. But for young earners, just one fund will get the job done for you. I mean, if I go back, all these people in Twitter are all asking just to get more engagement. What advice would you give to your 17-year-old self or 16-year-old self? I would just, if I were to have a time machine and go back, I will buy just one Sensex fund or Nifty fund and get it done. That's all. I will go do something else and hope I never start freefincal or something like that. So that's what so there's no real reason for it. If you have this urge to invest in small cap funds, at least have some kind of tactical asset allocation in place, because I have already shown in a previous video. You can check for that video. I have already shown in this article that don't use SIPs for small cap fund. Use a tactical asset allocation method. Of course, it's a high risk, high return strategy, but at least it will help you book profits from time to time. You must have some kind of strategy in place to book profits from time to time. Otherwise, investing in small caps, whatever you gain, you will lose in the next when the cycle turns. Better still, avoid all small caps.